Hey everybody, what's going on? Alan here. Welcome to the channel. Thank you for tuning in and checking out my video today. If you're new to the channel, this is my 1994 Chevy Silverado C1500. It's a C1500 and Silverado is the package. It wasn't until sometime later Silverado actually became the name of the truck. But I recently swapped the 305 that I had in this and put in this 2003 GMC Yukon motor. It is a Gen 3 LS, I think is what it is what they're calling. It's actually, no, it's not an LS technically. It's a, because it came out of the truck, it's an LQ. It could be an LQ or L something else, but it's not technically an LS. It is Vortec, right? Is it just water pumps and stuff that they do different? Like, what's really different? Intake manifolds and water pumps, but the block and heads are the same. I don't know. I've stripped every bit of wiring out of the original wiring out of this car. That is some ignition wires for the new engine or for the new motor. There is nothing in here at the moment that is old. This is the only thing left original to the truck, and it is the lighting harness for the front and back, headlights and taillights and turn signals and all that. So I'm leaving that there because, well, just because. I only need to wire up to this point eventually inside the cab, get it all looking nice and clean. I don't need to necessarily rewire everything all the way out to the headlights and everything all the way out to the back. But we're not focusing on cab wiring in this video anyways because, well, I don't have a harness yet. There is some solutions out there like PDS, Power Distribution Solutions, and there's all kinds of other like 3-letter wiring companies out there doing the same thing. They're expensive. There is one that I like and that I have, you know, in mind, and it is from PDS, but we'll have to save up for that. In this video, B, is we're doing the engine harness in this one. We're not worrying about cab, just engine. And yeah, I did get one of those $99 Amazon harnesses, and it looks really good in person. Let's take a look. It is cooking in here, man. It's like 105 degrees. But those are the two connections that go to your ECM, and that is what is replacing all of that giant fuse box with just this small fuse block. Yeah, and like I said, that's only engine stuff. And I think it's, obviously there's no fans in that. So the fans I will hook up from like an 06 model, but they will come with its own relay harness that you can also pull out of the engine. Alright, so the way this one is set up is all your engine stuff is, you know, it's normal, right? But instead of flopping up and over the intake, they've routed it so it can be put into your firewall, and your pedal plug, your OBD2 port, and some extra wires. I think all this bundle of wires is probably meant to go to the dash. But that's all inside the cab now instead of outside, and for 99 bucks you can't go wrong. The only difference is there's a few different injectors. This is apparently the most common for LS1s and LS6s, so you can either switch out your injectors to LS1 or LS6 injectors, and you'll also have to get like fuel rail spacers, adapters, and do your research, because depending on what you're putting it into also, you might not, I don't know. I figure if you need to switch injectors, you're also going to need to find adapters too, to raise the fuel rails to the right position. I have the, what are called the mini tech or something. You can Google up different LS injector styles and you'll see what I'm talking about. But I've got tiny little connectors, and it's specific really to like those LQ motors or the truck motors, not really specific to LSs technically. This is where the AC lines came through, 2 little metal lines just poked out that far. This looks like the perfect diameter for that rubber grommet that came with the harness. So we're going to use that for now. It seems like kind of like a little high, a little up, and yeah, just a little high. And I did want to put it originally right in the center, with some bulkheads, actually, some quick connects, and that way the engine could come out without having to feed a harness through the firewall or disconnect a bunch of stuff from the frame. I just wanted to go zip, 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 and harness and engine and transmission would come out. So this bit's pretty simple. We just got to unplug everything, and now I am back to worrying about what to do about the injectors. Great. Okay, this screw here, this red piece, and this plug in here will go back to the fuel tank. And I'm not sure what provisions there are in the new harness for that. I just gotta disconnect. I gotta find the oxygen sensors. I think there's one. Disconnect those. 3 more of those to do. That's another thing I'll have to point out to you guys later because I'm in California. Oh, goodness. Man, it is spider season. Disconnect a few oxygen sensors underneath the truck here. There we go. And then on the other side. What the heck? Oh no. No. Well, actually it's a lot slower than my last leak. I'll take it. Okay, well, this just got a little more complicated. I've got to pull the engine and transmission out. Right? Well, I mean, not technically. What I have to do is swap transmissions. Here's why. I'm under here pulling wiring harness, and I realize that that's got, well, and I knew this, I just forgot. Right, that's the newer style 4L60E connector with the thing, the big plastic sensor slides over the shaft, and those plugs are sealed in there too. They're like glued in, so they don't come out without breaking most of the time. Because the new harness I got has the plug for my old transmission in the OBS. But here's another kicker. The speed sensor is the new style plug for that 4L60. So, and then I got, you know, so guys, it's irritating, but I'm kind of glad in a way because I get to use my 4L60E that I put money into. I got shift kits in there, upshift and downshift kits, and Corvette servos, and pinless actuators. Oh, those things are sweet, right? And that transmission's rocking, right? Kevlar, 2nd gear band, and so without pulse width modulation, it actually grabs a lot harder. I know you're like, so here's the thing you don't know. They in the Yukon, for example, that this engine and transmission came out of, they have the Kevlar band stock, but they have pulse width modulation in the shifting, so the gear, when it locks into that 2nd gear, doesn't just lock up instantly. It you know, pulse width modulates the actuator that applies the pressure that makes the 2nd gear band lock up, so it closes softly, so you get a soft shift, right? But it's made out of Kevlar, so it doesn't burn up during its lifetime, at least not too soon. But if you put that stickier, grabbier Kevlar band in an older 4L60E without the pulse width modulation, then it does grab a lot harder, and that's pretty awesome. 2nd gear chirping. And the vehicle speed sensor for my older 4L60E is right here. So do I just cut these off, this connector off, and splice it into the new harness? Will that work? Can I do that? Will the computer accept that? I don't know. I'm gonna have to hit up the Facebooks and Instagrams and see what they say. Alright, almost got it all off of here. Just gotta get the intake off because it's actually stuck underneath these vent tubes. So I gotta remove the intake to loosen the vent tubes, and well, the intake's gotta come off anyways for the lift plate, so. Alright, I think this is the last one. I've said that like 5 times now. Ground wire. Oh, what is this thing? Jam Christmas. Oh, there's... I forgot about the knock sensor. Alright, had to take the motor mounts off and the exhaust manifolds off just to take those off too, and transmission bolt is loose. Just gonna give it a tug this way, scoot it forward as much as possible. Actually, I think I might be a little too tall, it looks like. Oh, yeah, I was a little tall. Well, the harness is out, and so is the engine and transmission, and I realize that it does have the same plug on the passenger side of the transmission as my transmission, as the one that came out of this truck. It just has the extra stuff on the driver's side that goes over the selector shaft, which is a neutral safety switch, but maybe it does more than just that. It seems like a lot of wires. I don't know what else this does. Is the computer going to freak out if this isn't hooked up? Do I need to have this hooked up for that computer? For this computer? Or can it just be deleted and it'll let me start it basically in any gear? I'm figuring is the worst case scenario. Alright, so the new harness is laid out here. Over the motor, I've got the adapters for the injectors. I'm going to do a little test fit, plug everything in, see what I'm missing, and get a better idea if what I got to wire in. Okay, so here's the problem. This harness is not going to work. Hopefully I can get the right one ordered in time. I did find it, but here's the problems. One, of course, the injectors. That wasn't a huge problem. I should have done this before I ordered pieces, obviously, but I got these adapters to make that work, but it doesn't matter because the O2 sensors are wrong. These are supposed to be males, not females. Also, I've got no throttle body connector. It says it's drive-by-wire, but none of these go to the throttle body, at least not to my throttle body. And yeah, that's pretty much the extent of the problems. Transmission plugs in, but you know, you got to get the details right. You got to have the right throttle body on there. Okay, after 5 hours of tape peeling and zip tie cutting, I finally traced the wires back for the 2 oxygen sensors after the cat, all the way back to their connections here in the clips. I laid them all here for the pin they went into. Blue pin 65, blue pin 25, blue 68, let's see, green 53. So I can just pop them right back into place and loom them up. I got one more to do here. I'm going to show you. So the last one I need is here in number 28. So once you take these covers off, it's blue in this case, I think. You take the cover off, and then you can take off the washer that's holding in the bolt. You pull the bolt out, and then the gray cover comes off. Once the gray cover comes off, these wires are all free. You can grab them and just push them in like that, and kind of give it a little wiggle. There you go. Little wiggle that way and it'll break it loose, and you can pull them out the back and just untangle them all from the rat's nest. Alright, there's the two downstream harnesses all the way there and right there with labeled up. Now there's still a bunch more I've got to pull out, like the evap plug and the oil pressure sensor and the low oil level plug. That's going to be a bunch. Okay, I got all the sensors I'm going to need. Oxygen sensor, the evap purge solenoid on top, and the oil pressure sensor, and then the neutral safety stuff here. And I've got them all labeled, so we can pin them back in where they're supposed to go. Alright, engine is back in with the same Yukon transmission. I know, I don't know what I'm doing. It's okay. Right now I'm working on this wire here that goes down and under to the alternator. I'm gonna get it out of here completely and get rid of that ugly box and replace that with something else, and then it's still gonna go to the starter, and then from the starter to the battery with this cable. But this, I've got something pretty trick lined up here, but those parts won't be here till Sunday. Disconnected from the starter, and it should come right out. Alright, now let's compare this to what I have left here from some other build. So plenty of length, too long, so we'll use this now. Some bends in it. Look good. A couple zip ties. Alright, got all the tape cut off from the areas I think I need to remove it anyway, and I'm pulling out this power wire because the battery is going to be in the cab with me. Okay, the power wire for the fuse block is separated, and it looks like this red wire is just looped. Alright, parts are in a day early actually, so that's pretty cool. We got the lugs, or the bulkhead connectors from Recoil Audio. You can find these on Amazon, but these ones come with boots, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then I went to Harbor Freight and got some inverter cable set. These are the 6-foot set, and they already come pre-terminated with 3/8 lugs, and which fit this 3/8 exactly. I got a place to put these. It's going to be right here in this existing spot where the I think the heater hoses came through right here. I got to cut this off first, and then I'll have to weld a new one on just a little bit further over. See, those fit in there so nice. Those are awesome. I didn't screw these in yet. They're just kind of finger tight there with the nuts on the back. I'm just doing a mock-up for the first cable here. I think we're gonna go right there. Oh, like butter. So that's what it's gonna look like there. We'll get a negative 2 gauge with a 5/16 hole on both ends of these and get them bolted up where they're supposed to be bolted, and we'll tighten that down. And then same goes in here, but that's 4 ends that I didn't have to crimp, and it's working out perfectly for me. The battery's gonna sit right here. And the last one I'm gonna worry about before I put the harness on the engine is the evap. I think that's what it's called. This one here. because California, once I get that fished into the harness, because it used to only have to go to right here, but now it's got I had to double the length so it can go all the way into the firewall. But I'm about to plug that in now. And it goes. It was only that long, and I more than doubled the length. I'm going to lay this piece into the harness and try to get the length a little more dialed in before I butt connect it, and then we'll test the resistance again with the ohm meter and make sure it's still a 0, and then we can tape it all up and lay it on the engine. Well, I ran into a little bit of a boo-boo, but it's not a huge deal. I just misunderstood the wiring, which isn't surprising. But these two terminals here that were wired together, and I pulled one out to pull in the cab. Well, I assumed that one of these were meant for the starter signal and one of them needed power wire. And I thought that was that one that went to the power wire because of where it was in the fuse block. But these two circuits all the way to the right are not even connected to the rest of the circuits over here. This will pull out. So even when I put this one to full power, the rest of this still won't have power. I was supposed to put both wires to a power, and that would put power to this relay here, which would then put power to this bank when the key came on through this wire. So what I should have done was bring both wires out of the loom and bring them up into the harness like I did this one. But then, like I said, I'd still have a problem of needing a signal wire to go to the starter. So I'm just gonna leave this one in the loom. I'm gonna fix my mistake a little ghetto style. I just taped everything back up, and you know, it actually goes through a lot of tape. I'm gonna cut this off. I'll put an appropriate size terminal on there for that tiny post on the starter, and I'll just pull it out of the relay here like I've already done, right? And then this will go to, this will be my signal wire. This will go to your key, your cranking signal, or a button in my case. I'll extend it. I'll cut that off and extend it to go to my button. And then what I'm gonna do is I'll just take this wire, since there's so much of it. I don't need that much of it in the cab. I'll take off just as much as there is red wire here, and I'll loop that over too. Well, that was easier than I expected. I just wired it in. Like I said, I looped it over like the red wire and put it in there, and instead of shoving two wires in the one connector here, I used this second spot here in this standalone circuit thing because it's not connected to the rest of them over here. So I supplied power to these two circuits with this by plugging it into this open spot here, and that gives power to that wire just like it's supposed to in the 87 and out the 30, or vice versa, or something like that. Okay, I think I've got most of the harness done. I just got to try and shove all of this through this little hole here. Yeah, sure. Alright, it's in the hole. I just gotta try and start lining stuff up. I got the transmission lines and the oxygen sensors tucked back there. I'm gonna start plugging this stuff in as much as I can, and I can try working the harness into place. That oxygen sensor needs to go back there. Alright, I got the harness in. It's all plugged into the injectors everywhere. I got a little bit of a snafu with this mass airflow sensor connector. It needs a notch right here so we can go into that right there, because right now it won't clip on because of the notch. I've got it fed through the hole, but as luck would have it, that hole is too small. Needs to be at least 2 inches. Everything else is hooking up fine. Temperature sensor, other sensors. I don't have everything hooked up in the back because I'm actually got to take the manifold back off. But I've got the purge or valve here, whatever this is, ready to wire up. I just got to find a 10 amp source. I've got it all in here, but I'm gonna have to get another fuse bank. I've got more stuff to hook up, like the radio for one. The oxygen sensors are gonna need a fuse, and then that purge valve solenoid at the very least. And then I'll run this to a constant and this one to a constant. And we should be good to go. Get the battery in here. There's the pedal thing all hooked up. Well, battery cables ran. I got my switches here, so it's just a matter of finishing it all up now. This video was mostly about that $99 harness that turned into like a $180 harness because I bought the wrong one first. But they seem to be working. Mine was all pinned correctly. I double checked everything, and yeah, it plugs right in. The connectors are good, so I think I just got to spend some time now finishing up the wiring, and it'll be good to go. Follow me on my other social medias like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. Those have more day-to-day updates, any day that I'm working anyways. So you find out, you know, the in-betweens and staying in touch of this particular part of the project. As far as the YouTube video goes, I don't know what the next video is going to be yet. It's probably going to be it's going to be a cab harness. We'll have to get one of those like universal race harnesses that just does the bare minimum, like hazards and lights and turn signals and horn. Got to be street legal stuff. Got to have all of that if I'm gonna have a chance at refereeing this thing and being smog legal as the name is. Nice clean ride right there. Well, that's going to do it for this video, guys. I appreciate it so much for you tuning in and hanging in there this long. I appreciate any comments, constructive criticism, you know, let's not just be mean. Tell us your story if you've done anything like this, you know, tips and tricks, all that stuff. It's about sharing the knowledge. So, till next time, guys, peace.